We're right back to work on our project boat, folks. Fuel tank installation is actually happening. It's been a minute. Getting ready to use some of our structural putty from Fiberglass Warehouse to stick some pieces in. So we're gonna be walking y'all through the whole process of how we do this. Now, we did this same process on our 29-footer several years ago, and it's held up really well. Gonna be using golf ball sized dollops. That's an easy way for folks at home to kind of get an idea of how to mix this material. I like to make a little divot in there, and we're gonna be using some MEKP. Generally, for 1 ounce is gonna be like a golf ball size, 10 to 20 drops. So we're gonna go pretty fast today. I've done this a bunch. Generally with vinyl esters, we go a little heavier than polyester based materials. MEKP, and I'm gonna give one little spritz across the top. Now, if you've done it your entire lifetime like I have, you kind of learn to wing it a little bit, but it is good to be accurate on your percentages. You don't want to over catalyze. That can compromise the strength of the putty. If you under catalyze, it's going to take a long time for it to cure, or it's never going to cure properly. Come on up in the boat with me, everybody. We've made some patterns and templates out of inexpensive foam. We basically made a part out of this dowel board, and then we replicated it in some really nice Coosa board. Now, one thing that's very important is I have resin coated these parts, and I've laid everything out. You can see we've measured and checked. We've had the fuel tank kind of sitting down in the little, they call that the coffin, the fuel tank coffin. If you look down there, it kind of does look like a coffin. And the idea is to install this thing so that it's really nice and secure, but it's got to have a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of movement to it. You don't want it terribly rigid because you can crack tanks and welds. Now, I want to welcome everybody. If you're new to the channel, my name is Joe Buskins. I'm a second-generation professional boat builder, a 100-ton licensed captain. This is our family's boat shop. This is our project boat that we've been putting floor, stringer, transom, flotation foam, and a lot of other work in it. We're happy to have y'all here at the channel. So a good thorough mix with this structural putty. Fiberglass Warehouse does a great job of pre-thickening this to the right consistency. Vinylester resin is going to be stronger than a polyester base. And I like to kind of roll it, flip it, cut it, roll it, flip it, cut it. Mix it till you're sure it's mixed, and then maybe mix it for a minute or two more is generally what I recommend. I've got everything marked and oriented. We've got some lines and marks here so we know exactly where everything's gonna go. Take your blade and just butter the seam just like so. Don't mind if we have a little bit of extra, a little bit of squeeze out. Make this look right. And generally I do this in 2 phases. I will usually place it, and then I'll come back. I will come back and tool it after it's in place. Sometimes we will let it cure first and then come back and really put a nice fillet. We'll probably just tool it on this side so that we can register our marks. We can see the marks that I got in there. I'm just going to clean up that bead. Make that look great. And then we're going to bring it over here, and I'm going to add some putty. Just a little bit of a radius or radii is all we need to help the glass flow around that corner. And it doesn't have to be perfect on this first pass. That's one of the things we do sometimes, is do one pass, give it a little bit of time to cure, and then come back and do another pass. It can be challenging to get it to stack or build enough. Oh yeah. All right, that's looking pretty good. And we're going to come back and tool some of that excess material. And again, one time, sometimes you can get it nearly perfect on the first shot, but I will probably come back tomorrow after this is set and I can be a little more aggressive with it and push a little bit harder. Now I'm going to come over here on this side and we want to look at our, I put some lines or marks on this side, and sometimes you have to bump and adjust over here on this back side with the little magic markers. You can see the black mark, and we'll draw these little V marks sometimes. Sometimes your line will get covered up, and if you can see the V, it'll help you kind of figure out where the part needs to be positioned. We've got some pads that are basically going to be bonded to the bottom of the boat, and the tank is going to be sitting on those, and that is going to give us some room to either have air circulating underneath, or we can pour foam. And that brings the question, what would y'all rather see? In our 29-footer, we did foam around it, but we did it where it was like hermetically sealed. There's no way water or moisture can get in there. This boat originally had a tank that was foamed in. So there's two ways to do it. We can set it on piers and we can bolt it. Matter of fact, I've even made, I'm gonna show y'all as we move through this video how we're gonna be spacing these just exactly right. We got these little ears that are gonna be going on the side, and then this thing is gonna be lag bolted. So hang in there. There's some little tricks of the trade to make that work. Now again, very important to prime or resin coat the Coosa board here, and I've also marked those starboard being right side of the boat, starboard, and then the aft corner. And I'm just gonna butter that up. The nice thick batch of the thickened putty. You can make your own thickened putties. You can use different additives to get that, or you can buy it pre-made, which is pretty convenient, I would say. I'm gonna put a little bit of material within the space here. That way we know that we've got everything is coated. Now this isn't the only way to install a fuel tank. I'm sure there's other methods, and feel free to chime in the comments if you want to below. This is just a method that I've had success with in our 29-footer and in other installations, and I say go with what you've had success with in the past, or you know what works. If you know what works, then by all means. And you can see I've oriented this, we've test fit everything, laid out some lines. We know what we're dealing with. And we're getting some nice squeeze out there. That's what I like. Stuff is tremendously strong and waterproof, so we don't have to worry about the Coosa ever rotting. Now sometimes you can just use a gloved hand and tool that a little bit. And I think what we're going to do on this one, instead of putting a big fat bead of adhesive all the way around it, that would cover up our lines and we might lose our orientation. I'm just going to do a little bit of tooling with my finger, and then we're going to come back after this has set tomorrow, and we will get ready to set some blocks on our stringers. So we have torn some pieces of fiberglass, and we've got our pieces all puttied in with the Vinylester putty. I'll be using a little bit of our favorite here, the Vinylester laminating resin from Fiberglass Warehouse. Remember, they got an excellent FISHBUMPTV discount code, save you some bucks. About 26 ounces or so, I'm gonna guesstimate where we're going today for glassing down the pieces that we got. Like it, beautiful. Now it's always important to agitate your resin a little bit before you go to mixing. And our little cheat sheet here, I don't have a 26 ounces, but if you remember that if you take the number of ounces and you pretty much half that, so about half of Half of 26 would be around 13 ounces, would be kind of in the, or 13 cc's would be in kind of in the middle. And that's 5 cc's, 10 cc's. So I'm gonna go right around 14 or 15 cc's is gonna be about right. That's a general guideline there for you folks. On the metric system, let's see, where are we in the milliliters? We're about 750 or so milliliters. And I know you folks, the rest of the world, give us a hard time, but it's what we were raised on, so we're kind of used to the imperial system, I guess you could say there. We're kind of used to it, but the metric system does make a lot of sense, and trying to adapt there. We kind of have to know both of them here in the States because we use a little bit of each. Which brings me to thinking all the folks have been watching from overseas, especially, seem like Australia, the UK, the Philippines, South Africa all of a sudden. So welcome to the channel, South Africa. If you're watching from South Africa, be sure to drop us a comment down below. Let us know what kind of boat you're working on and what kind of boating you like to do. That sounds like a cool place. I always think of great white sharks when I think of South Africa. And a little known fact, here in the Gulf, just outside of where we live, they are actually radio tagging and following great white sharks. A lot of people do not know that there are great white sharks in our part of the world as well. Although they're not as big and they're typically further offshore, you don't see them as much. But we do have hammers, tigers, makos, all the big ones, the big toothy ones. Good thorough mix on your Vinylester. You can see it kind of changed colors a bit there. Let's go to our pan, get all of that goodness. I do get a lot of questions. Are the mixing cups reusable? And the answer is absolutely yes. Sometimes I'll even use a little disposable cup side by side and we'll just kind of pour parallel to it. And that way we can get our measurements, kind of get accurate. But basically I will wipe down the interior of the mixing cup with a paper towel, and then we will clean it. We will clean it in some acetone. Always keep a little acetone bucket in there for cleaning up our shop supplies. All right, and if you look down here, maybe we get a close up. We put a nice fillet. It looks like fillet. Some people question that, but in the boat world, that's pronounced fillet. And we also did a real nice transition or radius or radii. That is a lot of getting a good job done. Plenty of resin on your base coat there, folks. Let's just get plenty of resin on everything as good as we can with the roller. The brush will come in and get some of that other stuff, but let's use the roller to get the bulk of it. We're going to be doing the back side here as well. A little easier to get to, unobstructed. We're trying to do this before we go home tonight there, everybody. That's something we do a lot here in the boat shop, is try to get to a good stopping point in the evening before we go home so that we can go straight to work using the brush down in those little corners. Look how pretty and nice that looks. That's what we want. And notice I'm being very generous. Very generous. I know I got one of my long-term viewers that's been following the channel, Mr. William. He's tackling some fiberglass and was getting a few air bubbles. So maybe, Mr. William, if you're watching, I know you always give me the thumbs up there, man, and it's much appreciated. But this maybe will help you. I'll try to give you some pointers. So this video is for you. So plenty of primer coat on our base. And then we are going to take our piece, which we pre-cut earlier. This one we cut on our cutting table. You can see I got a line for right in the middle. I've already notched it a little bit or pleated it so that it can bend over the top, and got lines. Everything has been pleated down there in the corners. I got it notched to go around. Oh boy, see how pretty and nice. If you do your dry fit before the install, how nice it goes. Using the gloved hands, some good PPE so that we can work this in and down. Same deal over here on the corner. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. And I'm going to use my hands to kind of pull that on either side down into that rounded edge. Sometimes if you don't do that, you'll get an air bubble. All right, let's start at the top. Let gravity work for us. Let's just get some resin on everything first. This piece is shockingly strong, even with just a putty. It's almost like what I call a chemical weld. Let's just get some resin on everything. The brush can be really good in these applications, and I think sometimes people don't utilize a brush enough, but you can really work that resin down in those little nooks and crannies. Sometimes when you got a fold there, I'm going to get a little bit of resin behind that fold and then fold that piece back up. And then I'm going to kind of pull that down and then let it just kind of simmer a little bit. I'm not going to worry about getting every little wet spot. Let's go ahead and get some resin on everything over here on this side. Having that pan gets a little more airflow over the resin. It's going to give you a little longer pot life, a little longer working time. The temperatures are climbing right now. We are rapidly getting to the point where you got to work a little faster, and typically we cut down on our catalyst percentages maybe just a little bit. All right, so that has had a chance to soak, and now I want to kind of come back with a second pass on our material there and really get it saturated. Oh yeah, I'm liking it. Time for the brush and those corners. Some dabbing and kind of give it some firmness. That's what I kind of tell people. I'm pushing with a pretty good bit of authority there. So don't let that scare you. Sometimes you can even brush the resin back and forth, kind of work it in. Don't spend a crazy amount of time, because it'll continue to soak resin, and as you add layers, it'll get better and better just that quick. That is locked in. That is going to be super duper tough. Now I'm going to do a layer of CSM to kind of dress this out or finish it out a little bit. This is kind of optional. You don't really have to do this, but cosmetically it makes it look nice. It kind of blends these edges and corners a little bit. And again, I got it kind of marked here in the middle. You can see I've got can see through it somewhat. I'm going to center this, center that right there, center that right there. A little tear, and this should just kind of melt right down into place. Sometimes you got to tear it a little bit. On the dry fit, I just kind of cut this on the table and didn't do a whole lot of work down here in the corners. A lot of times what I'll do is just pluck a little corner out of that thing right there in the corner where it's going to fold, and that'll usually allow it to kind of fold back on itself. Pull this tight and let's start wetting from the top and then down a little bit on either side. All you gotta do. Always a good idea to have a place well lit and a little bit of ability to control the climate if you've got it. Sometimes you can just do something simple like a tarp and some 2x4s and some PVC and make do. If you got a shop, that's even better. If you got a climate controlled shop, that's awesome. Absolutely amazing there. It's okay if we get a little bit lap up onto our mounting shocks there. We're actually going to come right over that and we're going to add a little bit more. Now again, the roller has a hard time getting in there, and I'm not going to try to worry about every little teeny bubble right now. We're just getting some resin on everything. and then load up that brush. Come in there and let's get some resin right down in there. We did the same here. If you look, we did a real nice fillet on everything with the Vinylester structural putty. That stuff does a beautiful job. You can also get some fumed silica, colloidal silica. Some people call it Cabasil. There's a bunch of names. I've had a few questions about that here lately in the comment section, folks. There's several different names for more or less the same material, but like a fumed silica, colloidal silica, Cabasil is kind of one of those. Now there are micro balloons or micro bubbles that are going to be kind of a lighter weight material, but if you want to make a thicker, more of a structural, usually something like the Cabasil. All right, so that's looking quite good. I'm going to give that another minute or two just to kind of soak in. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and hit these. We're going to have these as little islands where our fuel tank can rest. We're going to put some isolators in there. There's more to it, so don't worry. This isn't the only thing we're doing. We'll kind of show you the rest of the process as we move along, but this is going to be far superior to what it was from the factory. There's our pre-cut pieces, and we're just going to go right over like so. Those feathers edges do a really nice transition there, folks. Kind of blend it. Now the Coosa board is quite resilient. It doesn't necessarily even have to be fiberglass, but I feel like one layer of CSM or chopped strand mat, not a big deal to put that on there, and that kind of makes everything look really nice and tidy, and it's 100% not going anywhere ever. Now sometimes people really fret about every little bubble, and yes, it's good to be thorough, but sometimes you can make yourself crazy trying to make it absolutely perfect. You can sometimes come back and grind out little bubbles if you don't get a perfect laminate. But if you saw some of the stuff that I see in a lot of factory boats, it would blow your mind. So the stuff they let go, the amount of bubbles and porosity. Now I like to keep my acetone bucket and my little fin rollers here. We have some aluminum ones on our Amazon store, which again reminds me, everything we're using, our Amazon store, ton of tools, ton of supplies. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort on that. Let me do a little bit of this bubble roll in there, and that'll make it look nice. That'll work. I like it. If you do those fillets really well in the corners and do multiple layers like we did, it's going to be so crazy strong you won't know what to do with yourself. And a lot of times you get a few minutes and the resin will soak in and it'll get more and more transparent. The brush again is a fantastic little tool. I think it's underutilized. A lot of people do not use a brush enough, getting in those corners. And what my dad, y'all have heard me say this before, he called it dabbing. Some people call it stippling or stippling. Basically working that material in just like so. Now, one more little trick. Let me see, here's my handy dandy 5-in-1 tool. We notice we're down, we've kind of used all the resin out of the pan. We need a little bit more for our brush. Oh boy, there we go. Just like so. That'll work. And then we can come back with the brush. Pick that up a little bit. And there we got just enough resin. And we've given this a little time just to sit and soak, and you see how the CSM is now kind of just melting right down into place. I'm not having to fight it, which is wonderful. No reason fighting it. Kind of like when we're out on the boat fighting Mother Nature, man. We don't do that. We don't fight Mother Nature. We just go with the flow. If the weather turns sour, we work with the wind and the current. Go find a safe spot. Which does remind me to tell you folks, we're getting really close to starting our charter season. So we're gonna be fishing in our 29-footer. Red snapper season starts very shortly here, and we will be out there. And if any of y'all are coming down and wanna visit our part of the world, you can look me up at Island Marine Charters. And if you guys and gals wanna go out fishing, we can talk about your boat project to your heart's content and go catch some big fish in the process. Have some fun. Now, a lot of people maybe not familiar with Vinylester. I know if you've been following the channel, you are, but Vinylester is a superior grade of resin to polyester. Now, most boats are built out of polyester resin. There's nothing wrong with it. Our 29-footer is built out of it. It's a more economical choice and when you're building a boat brand new and you're laminating the whole thing. But when you got an older boat and you're trying to tie new material into old material, the Vinylester is going to bond more aggressively, and it's going to also have a little more flex and give, which sounds crazy, but it's not as brittle. So it'll flex and give with the boat, and it bonds more aggressively to old surfaces. And Vinylester is completely compatible with polyester resins, which is what this boat is built out of, and likely your boat is as well. Now, if your boat is in the rare chance that it's built out of epoxy, you would want to go back with epoxy if that's what your boat is built out of, but that is very rare. It's usually only in smaller, high performance boats, like maybe some racing boats or kayaks sometimes are built out of epoxy. That right there is the little bubble buster. Is going to help work some of those bubbles out of there, help your glass go transparent. I'm using a little bit of just firm pressure, not going too crazy. You can see there's a little bubble right there that I can use the roller to kind of work it out. I believe that looks pretty nice. Tank is in place. We've got our piers underneath it, all fiberglassed in. We got this rear bulkhead. We've also done some spacing here. Just took some wedges and we got similar measurements, distances, so that our gaps are similar. And our little Coosa board blocks. Now this is kind of interesting, or I think y'all will find this interesting. We're going to be using some thickened putty to fill in this gap because there can be slight variations in your stringers. So rather than trying to build these out perfectly to the stringers, we're just using some little screws. There are actually some little washers between. I think the camera maybe on this side can pick up. If you look, there's actually a little washer between. And later on when we take the tank out, y'all can see that. But for right now, one of the best ways I've found to fill an irregular space is we are going to go ahead and we're just going to put some of our structural putty down inside. And we've mixed this pretty hot. We've gone at a solid 2% on the MEKP. And what this will allow us to do is tailor fit, custom fit each one of these little blocks. I'm just going to push that. Now I don't really want that to come out at the bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to let this cure, and then I can take the tank out of place, and then we're going to come around this block and we're going to finish backfilling that with putty. But this will be enough to hold it in place in the meantime. Oh yeah, it's looking pretty good. And that's probably plenty. I'm going to kind of tool that. Remember that structural putty has got additives in it. It's going to make it a lot stronger than your conventional body fillers and whatnot. And again, I would love to know what you folks want to see. There's pros and cons to foaming in tanks versus not foaming them in. Some boats come from the factory with it done that way. It can be very supportive for the tank to have the foam, but then also some folks worry about water creating a corrosion issue. I do believe there are ways to alleviate that personally, I think it can be done. One of the things we're going to be doing is priming this one with a really good epoxy primer. And you notice the gap on this forward block is a little bit thinner than the one in the back. And again, sometimes when they weld the ears on the tank, there can be little variations. Other times, the stringer can actually have little variations in it. And this allows you a real easy way to adjust. And then we're going to be lag bolting through these brackets. So this thing is going to be crazy tough. Now you folks can see right here, maybe we can zoom in. We are sourcing this tank from Ezel Industries. They built the fuel tank for our 29 footer. That was 160 gallon. They can build it to your specifications. I'll put their contact info up here on the screen somewhere. Feel free to give these nice folks a call. Be sure that you told them that you saw their tanks on FISHBUMPTV. And then of course, all the putties and fillers. Fiberglass Warehouse is going to be a great source for that. And they've got the FISHBUMPTV discount code as well. Save you some bucks. And sometimes when you want to expedite things a little bit, you can give that a little bit of warmth. We'll move over to this one. Give it a little bit of warmth, because as soon as this putty kicks off, we are going to be lifting the fuel tank out of here, and I want to be showing y'all the completed method for bonding these in. Our fillets have fully cured and hardened, and we're going to pull our tape. I've actually already done this on all the other tabs, and you can see the little screws that we used a little better. It's just a simple matter of taking those out. Now this was just temporarily tacked into place, just wedged into place. There we go. The washers fell out. So what we had, I had some washers there between that was taking up some of that space. But now we've got a little bit of tolerance. So when you set it back in there, we're going to be using some lag bolts, obviously something heavier than the screws. And that will be in there very, very solid. Now what I was talking about earlier there, folks, we'll just, maybe this one is probably fairly easy to access, so I'll just do that. Now I've already mixed up some more of the structural putty. I've already catalyzed this. Very important to always catalyze it. And you can see I kind of filled in from the top, but now what I want to do is start backfilling it from the bottom and the sides. I'm doing this a little bit blind, but I believe I can see it as it squeezes out on the sides. The idea is to kind of force that behind that block, and then the lag bolts, you can see we're getting it to come up as I force it. A little bit of pressure there, and you'll get it. It's all the way at this point now. It's all the way up to, it's met the other material that I put in earlier that's already cured, and it's simply a matter of tooling this a little bit. I want to put a nice healthy bead around there, and I'll show y'all how we're going to clean that up. Very satisfying to figure out solutions to a problem, how to do something elegantly, make it look good. My dad was always, if you're going to do something, do it right. He did not like things thrown together. And you know, this is going to be underneath the Coosa deck. Nobody in the world but you, your friends. In my case, there's a lot of folks that are going to see the work we're going to do, but we like to do nice work, and it's very satisfying. I'm going to take our little silicone spatula that I modified. I'm going to use the tighter radius. You'll notice I got a long sweeping one and a tighter one, but I think for this application, the tighter one is the way to go. And it works beautifully on something like this. All right, we're gonna be going around now. You can kind of come back and just dress that up a little bit. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with using a gloved hand. Finger can, just watch out for splinters there, folks, when you're doing that and using the gloved hand, just to kind of, any little blobs. I know the angle is tight here. Maybe the camera can get under. You can see we got a really nice fillet weld all the way around. And when that cures, that is going to be lag bolted all the way through the stringers, and it is going to be some kind of tough. Now it is late on a Friday, and I'm ready to call it a day, but I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. We will be moving forward with priming and preparing this tank with an epoxy primer. I still would love to know y'all's opinion. Do you want to see it with foam around or not? I'm kind of in between. We could do it either way with this tank. Would love to know what kind of projects y'all are working on. Feel free to chime in as part of our community and comment. Usually try to keep this friendly and helpful, so if you got something constructive to add, please, by all means. We want to thank everybody who's viewing from around the world. Sincerely from my heart, it's Captain Joe here with Island Marine Charters, FISHBUMPTV on YouTube. My son Logan working hard behind the scenes is my amazing cameraman, and we'll catch you in the next episode.